UFC Fight Night Vegas 108, Taira versus Park takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelim opener of Piera Rodriguez versus Ketlen Souza. You know what, guys? I'm going to have to go with Ketlen Souza. Now, Piera Rodriguez does have an ability to take down opponents quite a bit, but Ketlen Souza, she's been taken down a few times in her fights. She's fought better competition than Piera Rodriguez. We've seen Piera Rodriguez out-grappled by Gillian Robertson and submitted by her in the second round. She's had some iffy performances here and there, but she's coming off a win over Josephine Knudsen, who was a kickboxer and didn't really have a grappling game and therefore got exposed in that realm by Piera Rodriguez, who took her down over and over again in the fight. I feel like Ketlen Souza has the experience necessary. She's beaten good prospects before. Yasmin Yaregui was an amazing prospect in women's MMA. Everyone was talking about her. Unfortunately, just not masculine enough to get to the top. Got knocked out and chinned by Ketlen Souza. And Ketlen Souza did not have the credentials of Yasmin Yaregui or the hype of Yasmin Yaregui or the whispers around gyms. I know there was a bunch of coaches talking about Yasmin Yaregui, this girl that we've got in the gym. She's so technical, she's so advanced compared to the other women's fighters. It doesn't matter. Ketlen Souza's borderline not one of you. You know what I mean? So Ketlen Souza's going to win. Look at her compared to Piera Rodriguez. At least Piera's trying to pass off as one. Ketlen Souza's going to win. I really think that. Ketlen Souza's going to win. This is flawless logic for women's MMA. It works near enough every single time. We're about to watch Nunes versus Kayla Harrison to decide who the GOAT might be. I mean, Ketlen Souza's going to win this fight and put hands on Piera Rodriguez and get the job done by finish in the first 2 rounds. That's my prediction for this fight. But before we get on to anything else, this video is sponsored by prizepicks.com. New users play $5, get $50 instantly in lineups using code GURU. You have to use code GURU. It's smart to use code GURU because then we can both benefit from this. And you can play 5 and get 50 instantly in lineups. What I'm going to do this week is I'm going to say that Rinya Nakamura is going to land more than 2.5 takedowns against Nathan Fletcher, more than 2.5 takedowns. I think Estevam Ribovic is going to land less than 81.5 significant strikes. And I think that Tatsuro Taira is going to land or going to fight for less than 17 minutes fight time. So that's what I'm going for there. And we're going to resume with the prediction video. Picking back up with Rafael Estevam versus Felipe Bunes. I'm going with Rafael Estevam here over Felipe Bunes. I think Rafael Estevam's very underrated. Undefeated for a reason, 13-0. I will say this, though. How does he win some of the fights? Charles Johnson, robbed. I mean, we say this a lot about Charles Johnson. All of a sudden, damage don't mean nothing when Charles Johnson's getting controlled in the flyweight division. I swear to God, it's how it feels sometimes. Rafael Estevam, he won the fight. You know, he took this one on short notice as well. He also, I believe, missed weight for that fight with Johnson as well, which isn't a good look. But he stepped up on short notice here, which means there's a good chance he'll miss weight again. And there's always an advantage to missing weight. That does need to be mentioned. If he's missed it before, taking this one on short notice, I feel like he'll be able to miss it again and have that huge advantage and only benefit, which is missing weight. Missing weight is a massive benefit in MMA. There's no punishment for it. So Rafael Estevam, I think he's going to win this one using his grappling over Felipe Bunes. Bunes got fucked up by Joshua Van. He had moments, though. Everyone has moments, you know what I mean, in fights. But Rafael Estevam just seems a little bit too much with his grappling game. And I think he'll be able to do his grappling thing against Felipe Bunes and just sort of like win dominant position, get the back, get the rear naked. He's known for going for a bunch of takedowns, working his jiu-jitsu game. Sometimes he can be a little bit too non-damage oriented. Like, I do worry sometimes in Estevam fights, like, okay, we've got dominant position, but we need to do something more with this in order to secure ourselves the victory. So I do worry in a way that maybe Felipe Bunes could, you know, do more damage in some of the rounds. But I just think Rafael Estevam's going to control dominant position too much here. I can see him getting the back. I mean, Felipe Bunes has lost 7 times in his career. Undefeated Rafael Estevam. He's had a couple close shaves with some decisions. That does need to be said. But overall, his grappling is very good. And he is able to implement his grappling in MMA. Whether he does it efficiently enough to win, I think Charles Johnson's a little bit better of a counter grappler than Felipe Bunes. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I think Rafael Estevam will be able to implement his grappling on Bunes, win and stall in some dominant positions like the back and the side control, and maybe not do all that much, but maybe a submission attempt here and there. But I think he's going to win this one with his grappling, so I'm going to say Rafael Estevam wins this fight by decision, maybe with a really tough third round where Felipe Bunes has a really good third round against him. Johnson was beating him up in the third round of their fight. So I'm going to go with Rafael Estevam getting this one done based on the first 2 rounds. 29-28. We move on. Up the card to another fight. Austin Bashi versus John Yannis. I'm going with Austin Bashi over John Yannis. I always wonder who this person is. It looks like an Uros Medic hairline. Maybe a Damon Jackson in his prime with his hairline. Anyone know who the outline silhouette is for these UFC fighters? I feel like I recognize this fighter for some weird reason. I swear that's Uros Medic. I don't know why it's Uros Medic, but I swear that's Uros Medic in like Dana White's Contender Series shorts. I don't know why, but either way. I'm going with Austin Bashi. John Yannis shouldn't be in the UFC. He's a bad regional fighter. He's fought no one good. He's lost a bunch of fights. He's been dominated on the regional scene. He's been finished on the regional scene. He's fought bums on the regional scene to get wins, like a guy who was 4-4. And this is a very short notice step up for John Yannis, who happens to have a winning record in the local area at the time. I know Austin Bashi lost his debut. He was undefeated, 13-0. Again, one of the most talked about prospects. Unfortunately, he ran into the great prospect destroyer of our era, Christian Rodriguez. I didn't even need to say the name. You could have guessed someone that fraud checked a featherweight prospect or a bantamweight prospect. If I'm telling you a featherweight prospect got fraud checked and a bantamweight prospect got fraud checked, you're listing a name, whatever his fucking name was. Christian Rodriguez immediately. He's been fraud checking all of them, and he loses to anyone that he definitely should beat. This seems to be the case with him all the time. I don't know why a Rosa is so difficult for someone, while all of the next best waves of talent are just too easy for him. But Austin Bashi's good. I think he's going to be able to work his grappling. I'm predicting a very easy first round finish for him. I think first round rear naked choke. He'll go out there, mix in the striking a bit. Maybe John Yannis will do some dynamic stuff. This will get him taken down. And I reckon that Austin Bashi will then get the takedown, get the back, get the rear naked choke. And I think this is going to be quite a cut and dry, simple performance. John Yannis is not UFC level. It sucks that he's got this opportunity. Well, it's good for him that he's got the opportunity, but it sucks for the UFC that they've kind of had to give him a contract here, because I wonder if they're going to give him another fight afterwards. It's kind of interesting discussion that maybe needs to be had, but yeah, John Yannis is getting sacrificed to Austin Bashi here. It's tough. Austin Bashi was supposed to fight Francis Marshall, who's a good fighter himself, who would have been a good fight for Austin Bashi that I'm sure he's trained very, very hard for. But John Yannis, I think he had a fight coming up in a couple of weeks. So he is ready, but not ready on a week's notice to fight Austin Bashi, a great prospect, and make the weight as well. So I'm going to go with Austin Bashi getting this one done. Early submission win over John Yannis. That's where the money's at. We move on. Up the card, Nick Klein versus Andrey Pulyaev. I'm going to go against Nick Klein because I saw something in him in his fight on the Contender Series against Mansour Abdulmalik. And although he had some moments in that fight, he even wobbled Mansour Abdulmalik in a moment as well. He actually cracked him and got him and kind of hurt him a little bit for a moment. Andrey Pulyaev's going to win, in my opinion. Now, maybe he's the underdog. I'm not sure. 6'4", rangy as fuck, good at range on the feet, good cardio, good grappling instincts, good takedown defense. Fought Christian Leroy Duncan, gave him a bit of a competitive fight at the distance, and then Christian Leroy Duncan took over in the third round, at the very end of the third round, actually, and started really beating up on Andrey Pulyaev. But Nick Klein, the Mansour Abdulmalik fight, it was just so... There's certain fights here where I look at it and I go, you're not a fighter. I'm probably going to get... Someone's going to be upset about that. But there's certain fights, I can't describe it, but you look at it and you think, you're scared. You are actively a scared man in the cage. I don't get that from Pulyaev. Maybe he's hesitant in moments. Maybe he doesn't put doesn't put the gas on the way he needs to in certain moments, put the pedal to the metal the way he needs to, and really go for it and, you know, really grind when he needs to. Maybe there's sometimes he lets things get away from him a little bit, but in Nick Klein's fight on the Contender Series, first of all, I think he might have a grappling edge. I don't think it's enough to dominate and finish, nor completely control Andrey Pulyaev, but he's probably going to get some takedowns. I think on the feet, Pulyaev has an advantage, but again, Nick Klein against Mansour Abdulmalik. Scared man. A scared man out there. Very terrified, rocked Mansour Abdulmalik, and then didn't follow up because he was scared. In 2025, as a UFC fighter, you're going in there in front of Dana White, and I swear to God, he was scared of Mansour Abdulmalik in their fight. Timid, shying away. He was really low down at all times, so he could like rear back as much as possible away from all of the shots that were being thrown. He wanted to stumble his way into a victory rather than go out there and get it against Mansour Abdulmalik. He wanted to fluke Mansour Abdulmalik making a mistake, and then him getting dominant position and winning from there. He just looked timid. He looked timid and scared. And for that reason, I'm going with the Russian guy, Andrey Pulyaev. Nick Klein could win. Maybe he proved me wrong. Maybe he had a tough fight. You never know what happens with some of these guys, but I can't shake that image of the way he was fighting against Mansour Abdulmalik. He's decent at grappling, Nick Klein, but I reckon Andrey Pulyaev's a bit more well-rounded and a bit more of a fighter. So I'm going to go with Pulyaev getting this one done. We move on. Up the card, Rodolfo Vieira versus Tresean Gore. This one's tricky, but Tresean Gore just got fucked up so badly about 4 months ago. Which is a decent amount of time, but not enough, dude. He got dropped so many times against Marco Tulio, another Brazilian, but this time a striker, a kickboxer, a very good one at that, a very good guy at mixing in the strikes. I mean, he was putting on a show against Tresean Gore. There was a moment where he got cracked himself, but then other than that, it was one-way traffic from Marco Tulio, piecing up Tresean Gore, hitting combos on him, spinning attacks, all sorts, knocking him down about, I think he knocked him down about 3 times in that fight really badly, and then finished him with the last one as well. Tulio's a beast. So I'm not going to say, Tresean Gore lost to Tulio, therefore he'll never be good enough to be anywhere. Tresean Gore's definitely got some talent, and more talent than his record suggests, and more talent than losing by fucking KO to Cody Brundage suggests. He's actually a talented, dangerous striker. However, one-dimensional, not fluid with his footwork. So he's stationary and one-dimensional with his boxing. Occasionally, he's got a good low kick. He's got a nasty guillotine, which I think is going to come into play in this fight because he loves to pull a guillotine, Tresean Gore. I know he got a really nasty one on Josh Fremd, I believe it was. And there was another fighter that he got a really nasty guillotine on. That looks very, very painful. Like the crank that he can get on a guillotine is nasty stuff. But Rodolfo Vieira is a jiu-jitsu god. I know he gassed out against Anthony Hernandez early in his career, but he was doing good in the grappling early on in that fight. And then Anthony Hernandez started building into the fight, and eventually Vieira got put into a guillotine and tapped because he was exhausted and absolutely exhausted from scrambling with Anthony Hernandez. I reckon, though, Rodolfo Vieira is going to be able to take down Tresean Gore. And if he doesn't, I could see him baiting a guillotine and then doing what Bryce Mitchell did to Said Nurmagomedov. What did I say in the build-up of that Bryce Mitchell-Said Nurmagomedov fight? I said Bryce is going to win using his control time and grappling, but he's got to watch for the guillotine. And that's what Said Nurmagomedov went for. But when you do that against someone who has an understanding of jiu-jitsu and wrestling, which Rodolfo Vieira does, you're going to often give up a takedown. Tresean Gore might think, I've got him. I'm going to jump this. Now Rodolfo Vieira's passed over the other side. He's got side control on top position against the cage. I just think it's too much for Tresean Gore. He's coming off a loss 4 months ago. I know Rodolfo Vieira has been pretty hit and miss recently as well. You know, he lost to Chris Curtis, but he's had some other good... I mean, he submitted Armen Petrosian in round 1. That's an impressive win. He got down and subbed Armen Petrosian in 1 round with an arm triangle. That's very impressive. And I know often here and there he gets into a bit of a shitty striking match, but I think against Tresean Gore, he's going to be looking for his takedowns, and I think he's going to get his takedowns against Tresean Gore and mix it up enough. And also, Vieira's not that bad on the feet. It's not like he's exposed waiting to be chinned on the feet at any moment with really bad striking. His boxing's all right. Against Chris Curtis, they basically had a boxing match for 3 straight rounds, and Curtis is decent at middleweight for a boxer. I know at welterweight he might have like met his skill level there and should maybe stick at middleweight, but where they're a lot worse. But Rodolfo Vieira was in that fight all the way through the fight. Even though he was getting worked to the body by Chris Curtis, he was still in the fight, staying composed, staying true, staying technical in moments as well. So I think Rodolfo Vieira is too well-rounded, hard to finish, and will mix in the grappling to get a submission here. Tresean Gore's just been finished too many times, in my opinion, so I'm going to have to go over Rodolfo Vieira. But Gore could get an upset. I could so see him pulling a guillotine and Rodolfo Vieira passing his guard because of it, though. That's a mini in-between prediction that I'm going to put out there. But I think Rodolfo Vieira wins this fight by submission in round 2. I think a round 2 finish for Rodolfo Vieira is in store here. We move on. Rinya Nakamura versus Nathan Fletcher. I hate this. I hate these ones. Rinya had a ton of hype. He did, off of not an American wrestling, sorry, just a wrestling background. Okay? He had a ton of hype. Freestyle wrestler, I believe. Ton of records and this, and he's Nakamura. Kita Nakamura, I believe, was his older brother or cousin or something. He's got lineage to him. He's been doing this for a long time. Rinya Nakamura can't throw hands and can't finish a fight on the ground. On the feet, he looks lost when he doesn't get his own way. Muin Gafarov should not be fraud checking you. I'm sorry, if you're a legit prospect, Muin Gafarov should not be fucking fraud checking you. Muin Gafarov is fucking garbage. End of. If you're a legit prospect, no way Muin Gafarov's handing you your first loss. And that weren't the only red flag in his career, though. Before that, he went to a fight with Carlos Vieira, who's had a moment. You know, I think he just, like, head kicked a dude that he wasn't supposed to beat. Maybe a Balaji, I think, got head kicked and then rear naked choked by him. I'm not sure who it was, but Carlos, no, it wasn't a Balaji at all, was it? I'm retarded. But some fighter got rocked really badly by Carlos Vieira. Either way, he's an older man. He's got some finishing potential. Rinya Nakamura beat him, but in that fight, Rinya Nakamura just kind of got stalled out on the ground in like no good positions. Didn't really do any damage at all in that fight. On the feet on occasion, maybe, but I mean, he moves his feet well. He's an athlete, but I feel like Nathan Fletcher's going to be able to outwork him here with jiu-jitsu ability and with like striking and damage being done. Now, I know Nathan Fletcher just lost to Karol Loughran. Not a good look. I thought he won the fight, but not a good look regardless. I completely understand. I got a feeling about this one, though, and I've been feeling it all week, and people have even been saying to me, like, you got Nathan Fletcher against Rinya Nakamura, and I've been like, I do have Nathan Fletcher against Rinya Nakamura, and then someone else will donate in a live stream saying, dude, how about Fletcher against Nakamura? And I'm thinking, yes, Fletcher against Nakamura. I don't know why I'm feeling it. I think Rinya Nakamura is going to get his takedowns. But I don't think he's going to do much with them. I don't think he's going to get dominant jiu-jitsu position. I don't think he's going to finish Nathan Fletcher by submission. I don't think he's going to get a TKO win. I can see this being a bit of an up and down against a cage fest. And I think Fletcher will outwork him in those moments. Knees to the body, punches, little elbows to the side of the head as Rinya's in on the takedown. Elbows from off bottom position, submission attempts from off bottom position. I think Nathan Fletcher is a more well-rounded martial artist, whereas Rinya Nakamura, what he does is very good. You need damage, or you're running a very, very risky game plan every time you go out there. If your game plan is to control, no damage, no TKO, no knockdowns, no wobble you on the feet, no submission real submission attempt. I'm messing up a lot of words today. I feel like Rinya Nakamura is going to get out damaged to a decision loss. That's my honest opinion here. So I'm going to go Nathan Fletcher. I think there'll be a moment where he cuts open Rinya with an elbow or something along those lines. But I'm going to go Nathan Fletcher getting this one done against Rinya Nakamura by decision. 29-28 decision. Rinya's looking around like, what? I controlled him. What? And Nathan Fletcher gets the victory. 29-28. Nathan Fletcher over Rinya Nakamura. Big upset in my opinion. We move on. Danny Silva versus Kevin Vallejos. Well. We are going to destroy Danny Silva, and we are going to get a first round finish on the main card of a fight night, and we will be getting a ranked opponent next if we win, and we will be getting a performance bonus for our victory. Kevin Vallejos is going to do what Kevin Vallejos does. Danny Silva's good. Danny Silva's actually pretty technical. However, he's leaving it a bit too close with his UFC fights, in my opinion, where he's getting into a dogfight with someone and it's gritty and it's back and forth. Vallejos has that style of fight with Gene fucking Silva when he's 21 years old. You know what I mean? When Vallejos is 21 years old, a kid in the game, still young in the game, by the way. But when he's a baby in the game, he fights Gene Silva on the Contender Series. He gets into the type of fight that Danny Silva has against some low-level UFC featherweight that's at the bottom of the barrel. And Danny Silva has won those fights, and he's gritty. I just don't see the talent in him that I see in Kevin Vallejos. With Danny Silva, I see composure. I see durability. I see toughness. I see cardio. He's got everything you can work for, in my opinion. He's got everything you can work for and work up. His technique's not bad. His grappling defense ain't bad. He's not like he's got a glaring hole in any one part of his game. But Kevin Vallejos, it's talent, man. And there's sometimes you can't not notice the talent. I think Kevin Vallejos is going to put hands on Danny Silva. I like that he's shorter than him. I think that's a good thing for Kevin Vallejos here, to rip the body of Danny Silva and then mix in shots over the top. So I'm going to go with Kevin Vallejos, of course. One of the biggest prospects in the UFC right now. And I reckon he's going to do very well here. He is a little bit small for the featherweight division. That I do worry about for him. But he's coming off a first round KO. Not against anyone that great to beat. I think it was like not Du Hu Choi, but another Asian fighter, Dun Hyung something. Sting. That guy. You know the guy who went to a fucking double knockdown fest against Michael Tresean. I can name Michael Tresean. I can't name the fucking guy that Kevin Vallejos put away in his last fight. Either way, I'm going to go Kevin Vallejos. Better talent, hands, nasty. His low kicks are pretty good as well. I don't see any grappling here. I think this is going to be a stand-up fight between Danny Silva and Kevin Vallejos, and Vallejos is way more talented in the boxing. I think he's got a better chin. The Danny Silva looks a bit crowded in moments when he fights, whereas Vallejos looks like he catches you at the end of everything, and he's got good spacing and distance management. Whereas Danny Silva, in a lot of his fights, I see him hunched over in the pocket, and he's taking a couple shots, and he'll throw a couple of them back, and then he takes a couple of shots and throws a couple of them back. Whereas Kevin Vallejos, it's more slick, defensive work. Don't get hit by the first lot and then tag you 3 or 4 times back. So maybe we could see a situation where Danny Silva survives Kevin Vallejos. And for that reason, people say Danny Silva did really well. But I actually see a finish here. So I'm going to say first or second round TKO finish for Kevin Vallejos. Talent is the difference. And Kevin Vallejos has a lot of talent. Very, very obviously knows what he's doing. And we are going to be victorious. We are going to be victorious in the UFC. We will get our performance bonus. And we will be getting a ranked opponent next. Kevin Vallejos gets it done. TKO in the second round, I'll say. We move on. Up the card. Neil Magny versus Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. I ain't picking Neil Magny to win any more fights anymore. I'm going with Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. I know he got kneed in the face by Chidi Njokuani, but that fight was a very technical back and forth fight before that. And I even called that Chidi Njokuani should go for the knee up the middle right now. And then he, boom, did it. That was one of the fight moments where I called it as it was about to happen. So you could kind of see Elizeu about to get caught with that knee. I can't pick Neil Magny to win. I feel like Neil Magny is just I know Jake Matthews just beat Chidi Njokuani very easily, which isn't a good look for Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos here. But I feel like Chidi is just like a in-prime Neil Magny without the grappling offense. And I don't see Neil Magny having any level of grappling success against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Neil Magny's a veteran of the game. Very, very good for the years that he's been in the UFC. I think he's got the most wins in UFC welterweight history. I mean, crazy stats on Neil Magny. He's got a lot of wins. He's had a lot of fraud checks. But the only real good performance he's had recently, I guess you could say, would be against Mike Mallet, where he got dominated the whole fight and then won in the last moments of the third round when Mallet failed a fucking grappling exchange and ended up on bottom. I mean, what are we doing? I just feel like Magny is just not been the same, but he's so tall that sometimes he can be annoying to deal with for like up-and-coming prospects. Even though Michael Morales finished him and Prates flatlined him. I mean, I'm just going through back in my head right now the last fights of Neil Magny, and there's just too much destruction against him. I can see him sink into the canvas against Prates and getting finished by TKO. Or no, by flatline KO. I can see him sink into the canvas against Morales and getting finished by TKO. Mallett's dominating him and schooling him on the feet at range. And then you go before that, and there's just another... Ian Gary's chewing up his legs for 3 straight rounds. He beat Daniel Rodriguez. Neil Magny beat Daniel fucking Rodriguez, which is a fucking embarrassment. But D-Rod threw away that fight by letting Magny up from bottom position at the end of the third, which then led to him losing the 3rd round because of it. So D-Rod's retarded in that fight. If you look back at that fight, that was a very dumb decision that he made. But yeah, I reckon Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, he's a veteran. He's seen a lot of styles before. He's seen taller opponents before. He's basically had this training camp against a more athletic in-prime version of Neil Magny in Chidino Jaquani, which he did quite well against, by the way. But as Zaleski, you know, he almost fraud-checked Renat Kretinov. Hurt him really badly to the body. Didn't really follow up the way that he needed to, because once MMA fighters hurt someone to the body, they throw nothing but head punches afterwards. Even when the guy goes down on the ground, they'll just throw headshots over and over, even though the guy's not hurt to the head. Just kick him once to the body. Have you not learned anything from Khalil Roundtree, please? But I'm going to go Elizeu Zaleski. He's a veteran. He's not going to be shocked by the height of Magny and be like, oh, this is weird. I've never experienced this before. I think he'll play a very technical striking game. A lot of low kicks. And I think he'll beat Neil Magny with those low kicks. He's good. He's got great kicks. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. I think he'll use them at range here. And do like a better Mike Mallet performance without the need for the offensive grappling. So, which is eventually what got Mallet in trouble. So, I'm going to go Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, getting this one done by decision or maybe a 2nd or 3rd round TKO finish to ground and pound after Magny's leg is absolutely cooked. ZDS gets it done. TKO 2nd or 3rd round. We move on. Karol Rosa versus Nora Karol. Tattoos ahoy for these two. Yeah, I don't know with this one. I want to say Karol Rosa. I really weirdly want to pick Karol Rosa to win this fight. Should I do it? Nora Karol lost to Jacqueline Cavalcante. Karol Rosa's beaten Yana Kunitskaya, who's now Yana Santos, who... I mean, I don't know how much to rate a fucking win over Misha Tate. I don't... Or a Tate win over... I don't know what to... It's women's MMA, isn't it? Like, I really don't know. Nora Karol's good, but she's not clearing the fucking... She's not setting herself way ahead of the pack. I know Karol Rosa just lost to Aylin Perez. What do I do here? I almost feel like this is going to be a crafty vet Karol Rosa performance where you're like, oh yeah, she went to a close decision with Norma Jamont. Or, oh yeah, she went to a close decision with this other top, Irene Aldana. They went to war against each other. And I know that Nora Karol's the up-and-comer, but I'm going to probably go with Karol Rosa here. I'm going with Karol Rosa by decision. I can see a crafty vet performance. And Nora Karol, in my opinion, is not... Natalia Silva vastly separated herself from the pack. I know this is women's flyweight, not bantamweight, but the rules can still apply for a prospect in women's MMA. Natalia Silva separated herself from the pack so far that you could trust her to beat the top contenders. And even then, it got very close against the top contenders. Extremely close against the top contenders compared to when she was fighting regional or like lower level ranking fighters at flyweight or unranked women's flyweights, anything along those lines. And Natalia Silva had such a giant gap between her and the comp. Nora Karol, I don't know how much I fucking value a win over Haley Cohen. She's not Karol Rosa, who's a legitimate women's bantamweight perennial top contender-ish. You know? It's a tricky one. It's a very tricky one to predict because it's going to be one of those ones where you're like, you picked Karol Rosa, but yeah. Nora Karol's not really separated herself, man. Very, very close fight. Lost to Jacqueline Cavalcante, who I don't think is like that far. I don't think is a top contender herself. Like, that's going to be a battle where they both see each other at the title someday. I don't think they see each other in a rematch for the title. I think they're both pretty medium level prospects. And I'm going to go with Karol Rosa getting this one done. Experience. She's still in her prime. She's not like over the hill as a women's fighter. She's had some iffy performances recently, I understand, but I feel like this might be a little bit of a jump up too soon for Nora Karol, so I'm going to go with Karol Rosa getting this one done. Close decision victory over Nora Karol, 29-28, split decision. People are confused. People might be angry. Who knows? But I'm going to go with a crafty vet women's performance from Karol Rosa here. Likely as an underdog against Nora Karol. We move on. Elves Brenner versus Estevam Ribovic. I see the 5% Indian in him. We're going with Estevam Ribovic. No, joking. He does look like this is one of these Indian variant Brazilians, but Elves Brenner was at one point a fucking savage. Okay? On the come up, he was a nasty guy. Remember when Garam Kutsteledze was considered like the benchmark for whether or not you were going to become a champion or not in the division? Anyone remember those times when Elves Brenner beats Garam Kutsteledze and people are like, he's the best unranked guy in the whole fucking division? And then, Jordan Vucenic loses close to Garam Kutsteledze on short notice and people are like, dude, but he'll be a top contender. These guys are going to see each other in the top 10. Garam's just not that level, is what we find out. So that has diminished a little bit in terms of the quality of win for Elves Brenner. He also had another win over another opponent. Krachewski or something like that. Krachewski. Got a first round KO. Caught him right behind the ear with a massive overhand left, I believe. It was actually a missed punch, but it caught him right on the back of the head as he moved out of the way of it. So I guess it landed. And it flatline KO'd Krachewski. But since then, Elves Brenner got dominated by Majtek Bekorblai, or beaten very convincingly with some moments of success, but got beaten very convincingly by Majtek Bekorblai. Not too embarrassing, but then absolutely picked apart and beaten the fuck out of by Joel Alvarez. Estevam Ribovic, though. So that is, I do apply that to Elves Brenner. He's off of 2 bad losses, especially the last one where he got fucked up pretty badly. Okay? So I do worry for him because of that, especially against Estevam Ribovic, who's a dangerous, fast starter, gonna throw the kitchen sink at you, has first round finishing ability, is gonna cause damage to you. So if you're not up to it to take some damage, you ain't gonna beat Estevam Ribovic. You're gonna have to tough down and grit through an Estevam Ribovic fight to beat him. That being said about Ribovic, split decision to Daniel fucking Zellhuber. Needs to pull it out the bag in the 3rd round after getting dropped and doesn't finish him there. That's a bad look. Zellhuber's very basic. Zellhuber's very simple. I don't know who would win. I think Brenner would beat Zellhuber. You know? Maybe it'd be a close decision. Who knows? But Estevam Ribovic beat Daniel Zellhuber. But then the Nasrat Haqparast fight, I know people call robbery. It was a close fight. It could have gone either way. Hate to break it to some people. That could have gone either way, that fight. Even though Ribovic threw a lot more punches and a lot more strikes, Nasrat Haqparast was landing very good shots in that fight too. And landed probably the better shots throughout the fight. So, very, very close last 2 fights. Ribovic won the Zellhuber fight, of course. And then, of course, I thought he could have lost the Nasrat fight, even though a lot of people called it a robbery. I just like the output from Ribovic here. High output, high volume, throwing everything. Brenner coming off of 2 losses in a row. He really needs this one. He's also coming off a TKO loss in his last fight that was really bad, where he got damaged a lot. So I think Estevam Ribovic is going to get right in his face and get throwing heat. Maybe Brenner could catch him early, but you've got to imagine the longer this fight goes on, the more it favors Estevam Ribovic. Although we've seen Brenner tired and push through, we ain't seen Ribovic tired. So you could say, Brenner's got really good cardio. We've seen him tired and we've seen him push through and break Garam Kutsteledze in the 3rd round. Ribovic doesn't show fatigue in his fights. 3rd round against Daniel Zellhuber, slowed down after he threw a 100-punch combination against him in the 3rd round. But he had 100 punches to throw in the 3rd round. He had output records to throw against Nasrat Haqparast within 15 minutes. There's just too much output to say Brenner wins past round 1. And I don't see a 1st round victory for Elves Brenner, so I'm going to go with Estevam Ribovic, getting this one done. I just realized there's 2 Argentinians on the card, so I guess this is going to have a good amount of Argentine fans watching the event with Vallejos and Ribovic on the same card. But I'm going to go with Estevam Ribovic getting this one done by 2nd or 3rd round TKO victory. Maybe could be a 29-28 decision based on the last 2 rounds. I just think he's too good at striking and have too much volume for Elves Brenner. We move on. Mateusz Rebecki versus Chris Duncan. Or should I say Mateusz Rembecki, as they pronounce it, versus Chris Duncan. Now, I like Chris Duncan. I root for the Scots. I got a bit of Scottish DNA in me, you know what I mean? I like to root for the Scots. I think Chris Duncan's a cool dude. Okay? I think he's a cool dude. He's messaged me before. Was it heated and then we sorted things out and we became a little bit chums? Who knows? But I don't know how he's here. I don't know, man. I look at Chris Duncan and I see talent in every one of his opponents. And not him. You know, when he's fighting on the Contender Series against Campbell, I'm seeing the talent in Campbell. And then Duncan wins and gets the win against him. And then I see something else and I see the talented opponent. And man, the opponent looks really good. Duncan's guillotined them. Balachiocki got a ton of talent. Crazy amount of talent, dude. What a fighter. Oh, wow, he's looking fast and sharp in this first round against Chris Duncan. Man, he looks talented. Duncan's beaten him. Jordan Vucenic, really talented up-and-coming prospect in my eyes at the time. Really talented up-and-coming prospect. Let's see how Duncan deals with this one, dude. Oh, Duncan's dominating him. Oh, no, here's Vucenic in the second round. There's that talent we were talking about. Duncan's guillotined him. Duncan's fucking weird. I don't see him beating Rebecki, though. But I just wanted to get that out there that Duncan fucking confuses me. Because I did not think he would be the one. You know what I'm saying? That's going to take on Rebecki, and if he wins this one, maybe get a ranked opponent. So I don't know. It's a weird thing with Duncan. I would say Rebecki wins, but then what if I say Rebecki wins and he goes out there, beats the shit out of Duncan for 2 rounds, gets guillotined in the second round? This is the worry. And Duncan's training with a great gym, ATT. You know, I know he's a Scot, but he's not restricted to a small niche gym in Inverness. And we do a lot of training up here, laddie pal. He's not in that. I got a gym down in Dundee, man. It's none of that. He's at ATT. He's with good fighters. Rebecki's great as well, though. I think Rebecki beats him. I think Rebecki has shown us. I mean, he beat Matek Bekorobly. And that fight arguably could have been stopped for him in round 3. But he put his all into the finish in round 3, and it still didn't come out good for him. Carlos Diego Ferreira beat Mateusz Rebecki, but you guys know how I feel about Carlos Diego Ferreira. This guy's a fucking marauder, okay? People forget, man. Carlos Diego Ferreira, he's a fucking split decision with Beneil Dariush, by the way. Needs to be mentioned. Split decision with Beneil Dariush. It was looking risky against Gamrot before Gamrot kneed him in the smaller rib and broke his tiny little floating rib. He was looking good against Gamrot. Rebecki dropped him in the first round, ended up gassing out, getting beaten up in the later rounds. But I'm going to go Rebecki this time. Against Oroblay, he looked like he controlled his cardio a lot better. He's had some time to improve. He's got a great record. He's got a lot of experience now. It's now or never. He's a little shorter, tankier opponent. I don't see him getting guillotined for that reason, for some bizarre fucking reason. I just think he's too tanky and stocky, and his shoulders are so high up. Whenever I see a long-necked opponent, I'm like, this dude's getting guillotined at some point in his career. I don't see that with Rebecki. And I reckon he'll be able to out-technically box Duncan with speed on the outside with his footwork. I'm going to go over Rebecki getting this one done. I'm going to say TKO in the first round. Duncan, do it again. I dare you. I dare Chris Duncan to do this again and pull off the victory again. I don't understand him as a fighter. I don't see it. I don't see the things I see in other lightweight fighters that are outside the rankings. But he keeps winning, and winning is the way forward. And we've seen that recently in MMA, that winners win. Okay? It doesn't matter how bad they look or how sloppy they look in moments, or if he had a bad round here or there, or if he got dropped in the fight. Winners win in MMA. But Rebecki's a winner as well. So I'm going to go with Mateusz Rebecki, getting this one done against Chris Duncan. I'm going to say first or second round TKO, but I want Duncan to prove me wrong and get an upset win. He won't. I'm going with Rebecki getting this one done. We move on. Oh, the big main event, folks. It's Tatsuro Taira versus Hyun-Sung Park. The one you've all been waiting for, guys. Now, you may notice no difference from this fight compared to the early prelim opener. But that's just MMA. That's just the UFC in 2025, folks. You're a casual fan if you aren't hyped up for this main event. Should be a Tatsuro Taira pretty easy victory. Hyun-Sung Park, they actually have a common opponent in Carlos Hernandez, and Hyun-Sung Park dominated him. And Tatsuro Taira also beat him very convincingly, if I'm not mistaken. Hyun-Sung Park taking this fight on short notice. This was supposed to be Amir Albazi, who I also would have chosen Tatsuro Taira to defeat. I'm also going to choose Tatsuro Taira to defeat Hyun-Sung Park. Hyun-Sung Park was supposed to be fighting another fighter in the flyweight division in a couple of weeks. So this isn't off-the-couch Hyun-Sung Park. He's been in training camp. He just maybe wasn't dialed in for his weight cut yet. But he had a fight coming up after this, and it wasn't a grappler. And I'm trying to remember in my head who that opponent was that he was matched up against. But it was a striker in the flyweight division. And I can't remember who it was, but it was a striker, which is very important here. Because Tatsuro Taira has been training for Amir Albazi, a well-rounded, decent at striking, decent at grappling opponent. And Taira's looking to enforce his game plan, which is to get the back. All the time, Taira's looking to get the back. Hyun-Sung Park's not been training specifics. He's not been training specifics to deal with Taira's game. I think Taira's a guy you need a full training camp for. You need a full training camp for it because Brandon Royval is a top-level flyweight. And we know that. We know how Taira hangs at the top level. I know he lost, but it was a very close fight, and he had moments, and he had dominant rounds, and he had the back of Brandon Royval in moments as well, and he got to his dominant position against a fighter, in my opinion, at flyweight that is just 5 times more proven at flyweight than Hyun-Sung Park. Hyun-Sung Park is talented. He comes in, he gets a finish in his debut, he gets a finish in his second fight. He's a finisher. Very fast starter. I don't think Taira is going to get caught out here. He's just come off a loss, and I think that's the best position for him to be in here. Because if he was just on the come up and then Hyun-Sung Park got chucked in, maybe he'd still think too much of himself. But I like that Taira just got humbled, and he got humbled in a fight that he did well in. That was a close fight, that he had moments in, that he grappled well with Royval in. And Royval's a hell of a grappler. Royval's a hell of a grappler. He can scramble very well and make you work for a whole bunch of nothing. And that did happen at moments in the Taira fight. But in other moments, Taira held his back for a whole round and had dominant position and did well. So I'm going to go with Tatsuro Taira being able to enforce his game plan on Hyun-Sung Park. Wouldn't be shocked if Hyun-Sung Park somehow gets an upset, but I'm going to say that Tatsuro Taira gets this one done by second round submission victory. Rear naked choke is what I'm going to go for here. I just think Hyun-Sung Park needed a specific training camp for Taira and what he deals with and what he does. Whereas Taira doesn't need a specific training camp for Hyun-Sung Park because Taira is going to do what he's going to do. You have to react to what Taira wants from you and deal with it that way. Unless you're maybe Alejandro Pantoja and you can just fucking bullheadedly get what you want regardless. But if you're Hyun-Sung Park, you've got to have a training camp prepared for what Taira is going to do to you. And I don't think he's got that. So I'm going to go with Tatsuro Taira submission in the second round over Hyun-Sung Park. Shitty main event. No matter what an Asian guy wins, I guess that's good for the UFC and trying to get into that market. But yeah, Japan versus South Korea. I've got Japan. Open a history book. I'm joking. Let me not get too crazy. But I'm going with Tatsuro Taira submission. Second round. Goodbye.